I, 31F, gave my husband, 40M, an ultimatum about my stepson, 8M, and his escalating disturbed behavior, which may not be fixable. How can I work with my husband to make at least some step in the right direction here, without ultimatums? We are so stressed. My stepson has been off for as long as I've known him, going on 2.5 years now, which is the length of my marriage to my husband. One of the first things to really throw me off was a picture he drew of his mother when he was barely 6 years old. It was all red and black chaotic marker. He had hidden the drawing from his teacher at school by strategically hiding it at the back of his folder. When I asked what all the red was, he confirmed that it was blood, and that in the picture, his mother was covered in a lot of little cuts, as well as bleeding from her eyes, but he didn't know why. He eventually settled on a story that she fell off a bike. After this, I caught him as he was spilling water at the top of our wood staircase because he knew his older sister would walk up without socks on and slip back and fall, which would satisfy some vindictive plan to get back at her for upsetting him earlier. This was one of the first times watching him and my stepdaughters by myself. I was shocked. At 6, he was 6 years old and already knew how to plan a cruel way to seriously injure his sister. He bragged to me once that he had stolen money from a younger child, just to rip it up in front of him. He choked another child on the playground last year. He apparently flipped a table at his mom's house when he was upset just a few weeks ago. He's expressed that he wants to kill his mother so that he could run the house. He's expressed that he wants to kill his sisters during fights with them. I started hiding the kitchen knives at this point. His oldest sister upset him once outside, so he used an Orbeez, SPI, gun to shoot at her. I destroyed the Orbeez gun after this. I do not like having toy gun-like objects in the house anyway. Had it not been captured on our outdoor alarm camera, it may have been hard to convince my husband of this. He has said plenty of times now that my being upset about these incidents has only compounded his stress and has made him feel like he's the whipping boy for my concerns. If I talk about my concerns as we approach another weekend with stepson, or bring up concerns on a good day, I get stonewalled. So, there's that. Now that my stepson is 8, we get the pleasure of punted dining room chairs when he's reminded he can't have video games as a result of his behavior. He screams and screams and screams. He's on Adderall because it's just ADHD, and he just needs more stimulating toys, according to his 1X-week therapist. Yes, she says this, even though she knows about the death threats, and the physical violence, and the fucked up drawing of his own mother, and the times where he's been aggressive with my son, 5M, and the escalations in general. And the time when he said on a nice walk outside that he'd like to find a squirrel just to rip its tail off and laughed. And the baby talk. Oh my fucking god, the fucking baby talk. This kid regresses hard. Today he walked around with a water bottle like it was a baby bottle. He babbles with his dad. I have to physically leave the room and put in headphones because it creeps me out so much. His speech is legitimately unintelligible when he's in that mindset. Even his movements start mimicking toddler-like behavior. I've told his therapist about it, but it never gets addressed, which is wild to me since that seems like a major red flag for trauma. In fact, I am the only one out of 2 step-parents and 2 bio-parents who sends visit-by-visit detailed updates on all the behavioral escalations from stepson's time with us. His mother apparently tells the therapist that everything is fantastic at the other house, so my updates are quote-unquote very helpful. Yeah, no shit. To make matters worse, I do have diagnosed PTSD from experiencing domestic violence, which almost ended my life. So I was in fight or flight mode before, but now I am living, sleeping, and breathing fight or flight around this kid. He's only getting bigger and stronger and angrier, like tonight. Tonight, he was kicking a soccer ball in the house. I said, if you can't stop kicking that in here, the soccer ball is mine. So he whimper whined as he kicked the ball as hard as he could to hit a couple walls in the house. Then he whined and did it some more as I approached. I said, okay, it's mine, calmly, and I took it with me. Stepson threw a chair down, totally expected, unfortunately. He started pouting and shoving things in the house, slamming his door, dozens of times as loudly as he could right across the hall from my sleeping son, 5M, screaming at his dad for continuing with the family movie night without him, which was due to his behavior. More screaming. Stepson finally got fed up with us ignoring his behavior, so he lurked behind the couch where we were sitting, picked up a dining room chair and threw it at a glass fucking door, right fucking next to us. After that was a blur of screaming. My son waking up shaking and sobbing upstairs, my husband trying to get stepson to his room, stepson telling me he wanted me to bleed, telling my husband he needed to... Screaming, screaming, screaming. I wanted to call 911, but I needed to calm my son down. My stepdaughter hugged me and helped me calm down my son. I wish I had called 911. I am almost sure I will need to in the future. God, I wish I'd called. Later, I told my husband that we need to solve this problem in any way we can, or I will need to take my son with me and be safe somewhere else. I also told him the next time I hear a death threat, I'm calling 911. My husband started sulking about how I was leaving then, and that I needed to have more compassion for him, my husband. I repeated, I am only leaving if we cannot solve this problem. It sounds like we're on the same page about a reevaluation and a stronger therapist. I am not going to leave you if we can start solving some of this. So you're leaving then. This will never get solved to your satisfaction. Not on your timeline. I said that I never had a timeline and I still didn't have any agreement on a step toward at least some solution. My solution, I told him, is to have my son go to my parents' house during Stepson's visits so that I know he'll be safe. My parents know what's going on and they know that there's likely not much we can do otherwise. I will probably join my son during these visits if the problem still stands, given the fragility of my mental health at this point. Well, that's no way to live, my husband said. I agreed, but also, I have to do something about this. My son does not deserve to wake up to screaming and furniture throwing. It is goddamn traumatic. I am confident in my solution. Get my son and myself out of the house when Stepson is here if there is not a better solution in place. I've read books, listened to podcasts, and watched webinars, and according to all of these things and the experts, discipline is not a solution we can turn to either. We both have no idea what to turn to. Which brings me to my central dilemma. I am about to leave my husband, whom I love, because there really isn't much of a solution for what I believe to be a dangerous child with increasing anger and strength to act out that anger. I have no problem doing what's best for me and my son, but my husband is reacting to this ultimatum as though I will never be satisfied with any solution and that there's nothing more to be done. I think we're both right. I'm right for wanting to work on this, and he's right for thinking it might be unfixable. I want to work on small, impactful steps forward, like a new evaluation, talking to more specialized experts, etc. But in the past, when I've asked for these things, it blows up into a massive fight and gets turned on me for making it all about me, compounding my husband's stress about it, or for not having compassion for Stepson because everyone is out to get him. In fact, the only reason Stepson has regular therapy and medication at all right now is because I had to nag about it until it got done. As a stepmother, I have zero rights or guardianship over my stepson, which means my desire to fix this has to go through my husband, and then to his ex-wife, who has been resistant to all of this and has been giving stepson phones and tablets since he was old enough to walk. Help. This describes a challenging family situation involving a stepson with concerning behavioral issues. The stepson's actions, such as violent tendencies, disturbing drawings, and inappropriate speech, have created significant stress for the poster. The stepson's therapist's approach to ADHD treatment seems unconventional, and the mother's reluctance to acknowledge the severity of the issues complicates matters. The stepson's behavior has escalated to the point of endangering others, leading the poster to consider drastic measures for their and their son's safety. Despite expressing genuine concern and proposing reasonable steps like seeking a new evaluation and consulting specialist experts, the poster faces resistance and defensiveness from their husband. The situation is undoubtedly challenging, and the poster is contemplating leaving for the well-being of them and their son. Let's go ahead and enter the comments section. User Anon283744691. I have to say I'm quite shocked at how your husband plays victim here when you're the one being threatened. I find that extremely manipulative, and I'm surprised your love for him continues to survive that. Safety first? Get the hell out now. User ToughBrick2869OP replies, "Thank you for validating the very real feelings I've had about this for way too long. My husband has been resistant to most of any real conversation about this, and I'm starting to see it as a total inability to fix any of this. I wanted better, but all I see is weakness. I hate saying that, but it's the truth." User Weekly Conversation. He needs inpatient care immediately. He needs to be evaluated by pediatric psychiatrists and go from there. He's very dangerous, and his behavior is escalating. Your husband hasn't done shit in 3 years. He knows his therapist isn't helping. He just sticks his head in the sand and is hoping it will all magically get better. Let's get into the next story. How do I, 35F, forgive my husband, 35M, for something horrible he said to me during an argument? Husband and I have been together almost 10 years, married for 4. My husband and I were arguing, and he told me that my stepdad killed himself because of me. I lost my stepdad to suicide 7 years ago, and it was absolutely the most painful and traumatic thing I've ever been through. My husband knows how open that wound still is for me. What my husband said to me was the most hurtful thing anyone has ever said to me in my entire life, and I have no idea how to move past it. I realize that during arguments, people say things they don't mean, but this is beyond. Please tell me how you've gotten past horrible things said during arguments. So here's a nutshell of what we were fighting about. He was acting weird and quiet all day, and I was pressuring him into telling me to what was bothering him, which I know he hates, but I can't help it. When he's off, I feel it strongly, and it gives me mad anxiety. I am owning that this is not the best way to go about things. I need to know when to back off. So I finally got him to tell me what was bothering him. He was upset because he feels I've been making Christmas plans with my family without consulting him. Also because I made a Christmas list on Amazon, and my dad bought our daughter the thing she wanted most off the list. Not on purpose. My husband feels angry and frustrated and said he feels like a stranger in his own house because of these things. He told me all I care is that my extended family is happy and I couldn't give two shits about him. I told him that was absurd. I do everything I can to be a supportive wife, and why is it a problem that I made a Christmas list for our daughter? We all have access to the list. I sent it to him and my family, and everyone had the same access to buy anything off the list. I told him that he shouldn't feel that way, and it's just about our daughter being happy. He should be happy for her that she has so much love around her, and that's the most important thing. He got very upset and said that I have a way of making him feel like the least important person in my life, and told me I see my family too much, and he feels that he's not the most important man in our daughter's life, that my dad is. Another tidbit of info to add here, he works away from home and is gone 3 weeks at a time. 3 weeks away at work, 10 days at home. Yes, I see my dad about once a week when my husband is away for work. I see my mom once every second week. He says it's too much and it's an invasion of his privacy. How much I see my family when he is away at work for 3 weeks at a time is an invasion of his privacy. He says he is just left to fend for himself now for Christmas ideas for our daughter. The Amazon list I made has about 40 things to pick from. My dad bought 4 things off the list. He says now he's just on his own as usual and I don't care. And I'm just happy that my parents are happy and don't give a shit about him or how he feels. That absolutely could not be further from the truth. I am loyal, loving, understanding, and patient with him. We've been through a very trying year this year in our marriage. I don't know how else I can show him that I'm a good wife. He just seems so angry and to hate me. He said, "I'm starting to see why name of my stepdad did what he did. You probably made him feel like shit too, and once you started mending your relationship with your real dad, you dropped him like he was nothing to you." Not true. My stepdad and I were close as anything right up until he died. He was one of my best friends and my lifelong father figure. So he probably did it because you drove him to it. And now how badly you're treating me is making me want to do the same thing. So not only did he pour acid into the most painful wound I have, he also threatened to kill himself, which is deeply triggering for me considering what I've been through. I told him we need to go to therapy. He says therapy is a crock of shit, and that all that would happen is the therapist would coddle me and blame everything on him, and it's a cash grab, and that he won't do it. We will share our opinion in the next story update. How do I, 35F, forgive my husband, 45M, for something horrible he said to me during an argument? After all that happened, he went back to work, never ended up giving me a sincere apology. I still FaceTimed him every night so he could speak to our daughter. I kept hoping he'd try mend what happened, especially knowing that Christmas is approaching. He went back to work for 2 weeks this time instead of the usual 3 because he was coming home for the holidays. I went to pick him up from the airport 2 days ago. Things felt off and tense. I'm still upset and hurt over what happened last time he was home a few weeks ago. Previous post. Yesterday, his phone was on the couch and he was upstairs. I had a bad feeling, and my intuition told me to check his phone. I know it's wrong to do that, but I did it, and I'm glad I did, as there was something to find. My intuition was correct. I saw under the recently installed tabs that Snapchat had been recently installed. I opened it. There was 20 plus ongoing chats, snaps with women. I was scrolling and it looks like it was only going back as far as the last week. But I don't know for sure, because he came in the room and caught me on his phone. He grabbed my wrist so hard to get the phone away from me that my wrist is now bruised from where he grabbed me. I asked him, who are all these women? He said, what does it matter? You're mentally checked out. You don't care. I told him, you're caught. So please at least do me the decency of telling me the truth. Who are all these women? He just sat stone-faced and wouldn't tell me anything. I started bawling my eyes out. He just sat there saying nothing. I asked him why. Why do I deserve this? He told me that I should be happy because now I have an out. He's sick of being used by me. I just expect him to pay bills and don't appreciate him. I don't have intercourse with him and constantly turn him down for intercourse. I've turned him down twice in the last couple months. Once because I was exhausted, and once because we had been fighting and I felt too emotionally hurt to have intercourse, and that I make him feel unloved and unappreciated, so he had to get attention elsewhere. And what did I expect would happen? He told me he will always take care of his daughter financially, but there's the door, go for yourself, to me. I have always told him that cheating is a hard boundary, and there would be no coming back from it if I ever found out he cheated. He's cheated on many past girlfriends. In the past, I told him, I'm not the stay together for the kids type, so just bear that in mind, and he did it anyway. I asked him if he physically cheated on me too, and he said no. I said, swear on our daughter's life, and he did, but I don't believe him. And even if he hasn't, it's just a matter of time. He's obviously looking to propositioning 20+ women on Snapchat. I am so heartbroken. I've been crying nonstop since yesterday. He isn't even batting an eye. Our family is finished and he doesn't care in the slightest. He tells me I did this and that I brought this upon myself, that now I can go find some new guy to use. My heart hurts so badly. Our daughter loves him so much. I loved him so much. I don't think he ever really loved me. All I wanted was us to be a family. I feel like I will never recover from this. Just when you thought arguing about Christmas plans was dramatic enough, it takes a nosedive into the deepest trenches of relationship despair. The husband pulls out a line that would make even the most seasoned soap opera writers gasp. Blaming your partner for your stepdad's suicide? That's like reaching for the nuclear option in an argument. It's so over the top that you'd almost expect dramatic background music to start playing. Then there's the Christmas list drama. Who knew making a list could lead to a household implosion? Apparently, Amazon wishlists have the power to destroy relationships. Move over, mistletoe, there's a new holiday wrecker in town. But wait, there's more. The husband drops the bombshell of Snapchat escapades with not one, not two, but a whole ensemble cast of women. It's like he took relationship sabotage lessons from a daytime soap villain. And the cherry on top? The classic blame the victim move, claiming the wife pushed him to cheat. Talk about a plot twist. In the end, it's a tough situation, and there's no denying the pain involved. Yet, amidst the chaos, there's an opportunity for growth and a chance to reevaluate what truly matters. Now, let's proceed to the comments section. User Burst Orange. At least you can know he said what he said to you purely out of spite, guilt, or a desire to end the relationship. He dug deep for that and picked the most hateful, cruel thing imaginable to say to you because he's cheating on you. It's not a reflection of you or contains any truth, just an angry, spiteful man lashing out about anything he could conjure up to lash out about because he couldn't deal with his own behavior. Strongly encourage you get therapy during the divorce proceedings. It'll give you something solid to lean on while you restructure your life. I'm so sorry this happened. Have the best Christmas you can muster with your family just to spite him. User Larisan. My husband's ex did this to him. It broke him for a year and took a long time to get over the hurt. She basically told him he was a horrible person who had put on a mask their entire 9Y relationship, or was abducted by aliens or something. Because he was acting different, he broke up with her and didn't let her manipulate him anymore. He is the sweetest, most sincere person I know. She's batshit crazy and definitely, emotionally, cheating. User PrettyG2116. Looks like your narc found new supply. Thank your lucky stars that this is all he did because he could have done substantially more damage than he did. I know it's devastating now, but see a therapist to process all this and you'll come out on the upside of things. It's probably going to shock you when you realize how much less anxious you are without him around in the hopefully near future. Let's shift to the next story. How do I, 24M, get my dad, 52M, to realize his wife, 38, is not my mom, and to quit pressing a relationship? My mom passed when I was 14. I was always closer with her than my dad, so I took it very hard and still missed her every day. My dad moved on extremely quickly. I'm talking about 1.5 months later, and he was openly dating his current wife. I suspect he was cheating on my mom. She moved in 4 months after my mom's death. Then, 9 months after her death, they announced their engagement on my birthday as one of my gifts. I obviously didn't take it well. Made a scene, dumped the cake they got me, and walked out. I disappeared for a few days until they were about to put out a missing persons runaway report. I was forced to go back. They tried to get rid of all evidence of my mom, pictures, personal effects, memories, and others. I kept what I could and hid some others. They wouldn't let me celebrate her birthday or anything to do with my mom. They tried to force me to call her, dad's wife, Mom. I never did. They would ignore me when I called her by her name. She would introduce herself as my mom. I would correct her every time. It got to the point that I stopped talking to her unless absolutely necessary, or if I was correcting her. These talks were usually one-word answers. My dad got angry every time I didn't call her mom, use her first name, or introduce her as dad's name's wife. I once spent 2 weeks not talking to either of them when I was 16 because I was ruining their family dynamic. Until I can be a part of the family, there was nothing to say or do as one. They caved at about the 15th day of no communication, interaction. I turned 18 and left for uni, and went extremely low contact and didn't go back. When I was 21, I got engaged to my fiancé. She knows about my relationship with my dad and his wife. She respects it and is on my side. When they found out my dad and his wife had a fit, they didn't know I was seeing anyone. My dad's wife posted on social media saying she was excited that her son, me, was getting married with a bunch of other things, saying she can't wait until she becomes a grandma. I made a short post saying I am not and never was her son, and she won't be a grandma to any future kids. My dad got mad saying I was disrespecting my mother and embarrassed her. I asked who we were talking about because my only mother was real, only bio, gave me life mom, And at this point, I lost both of my parents on that day when I was 14. That was 3 years ago, and we went back to low no contact. But my wife is about 8 months pregnant. They showed up to my house. I never gave them my address. They wanted to talk and meet my wife. I didn't let them in and said to turn around and go back to where they came from. But apparently, they decided they wanted to move to my city, state, to be closer and repair the relationship between us. She said she missed her son and wanted to be a better mom and grandma. I called them delusional and told them to leave and slammed the door. They bought a house about 5 minutes away from us. This has all been way too much for me, and my therapist wants me to let them in, but I would rather cut all contact. It wouldn't be so bad if they just would stop trying to replace my mom and act like she never existed. I honestly don't know much about my dad's wife. I don't even know if I know who my dad is anymore. My wife is struggling to support me emotionally and doesn't know how to help. Please, internet strangers, how do I convince them, dad and dad's wife, she is not and will never be my mom? About my therapist. He said I should try to express my true feeling towards them in a non-hostile and threatening manner. Do it in a way that is constructive but gets to the point. Learn more about my dad and his wife and get to the root of who they are and how they feel about the situation. But I'm going to find a better therapist. In the following final update, we'll share our opinion. How do I, 24M, get my dad, 52M, to realize his wife, 38, is not my mom and to quit pressing a relationship? Update. My wife, me, and our unborn child are doing good overall. My wife is over being pregnant at this point. Our child should be here in the coming weeks. I did find a new therapist. I called to cancel the rest of my appointments on the books, and he did not take that well, so I have put in a complaint. I met with my new one, and I like her a lot better. I feel like I'm actually being heard and actually getting the help I needed. I want to make this clear, I am 24. My dad's wife is 38, 14 years older than me. My dad is 52, 14 years older than his wife. So when she entered my life, I was 14, and she was 28. There were also theories about how my dad might have had something to do with my mom's death. That is not the case, but I still believe they were together before she passed. I am investing in a security system, but it will be a few weeks until they can install it. But for now, we have a doorbell cam and some cheaper cameras. Social media. Since the post about her being excited about being a grandma, how my wife and I getting engaged, we have locked down all social media. My wife and I are not active on any platforms anymore except for messaging or sharing pictures. We found the leak as well. It is my BIL, wife's sister's husband. We had a family dinner where we had planned on working on the birthing plan. BIL was insistent on being there, which was odd as he was not a part of it to begin with. While we were waiting for my mill to get home, I shared what happened between my dad and how it made me, my wife, feel. Bill got visibility uncomfortable. When I called him out on it, he denied it, but it was obvious. Sil called him out, and he broke down. He said he had been talking with them because we need all the family support we can get, and they should know their grandbaby. This caused an argument. It ended with Sil moving out and staying with us. They have no kids and had some issues. I think it is over for them. I will never trust him. Our birthing plan has been locked down and secure, made a day later without Bill, but we have some just in case of crazy showing up plans. Everyone who needs to know the plan, details know. Now, it is surprising hard to get a protection order. Where I live, it is heavily dependent on violence or physical contact. Technically, what they have done is not against the law yet. They are perceived as no real danger at this time since there were no threats made, and they left when asked to. They have free will to move wherever they want. Also, since a family member gave another family member my address, it is fair game. In regards to grandparents' rights, it is only when my wife and I have lost custody or are unable to care for them. But my MyLand FIL will be taking on that role if needed. My wife and I are not in a position to move. We just bought our house when interest rates were low, and my in-laws helped with the down payment. It is nothing massive, but it is home and perfect for our starter family. My dad and his wife are unable, shouldn't, have kids. I don't know from what side made it impossible, so that may be why the constant pressure. I did write my dad a letter summing up why I want no contact, how I feel about what they did, how his wife is not my mom and will never be. If I feel like giving them a chance, it is on my family's terms. Specified that my family is me, my wife, and any possible children moving forward. They are not to talk to my wife or I at any time unless it is through our lawyer. He can decide what information to pass on. They are not welcome around us at any point, including our house, school, daycare, social gatherings, birthdays, Christmas, BBQs, etc. As well as in public, we are strangers. Keep space and act like we don't exist. If they break this, they will get a follow-up letter, up to and including a protection order. The letter was quite long. Our law lawyer looked it over, and my wife and I signed it. Then he signed it as well as it being notarized. And then we made legal copies for all of our records. My lawyer went with a private delivery service and hand-delivered it to him with a signature of received goods, plus video evidence as well. So far, so good on that end. I'm now focused on my wife and soon-to-be child. I hope I'm ready. I know how not to be a father, so there is that. Thanks all for your input. Is there anything else I should do or think of to protect my family? Tune in for updates and hit subscribe to stay in the loop. Final update. Hello, it has been a while. Some people wanted updates. In the weeks leading up to my wife giving birth, things were stressful. I ended up having my first panic attack. That was not fun. My wife helped me through that one. Bill tried to apologize and get back with my SEL, but fed that up by trying to explain himself again on how he was in the right, by reconnecting my parents and my family. After that, their divorce has been moving quickly. My wife giving birth was an amazing experience for me. The moment I held my child for the first time amazed me. How can I love something so tiny and who I just met so much so quickly? Both baby and my wife are doing really well. My wife started saying she feels like a cow. I'm not sure how to make her stop, but she keeps randomly mooing at me. My dad and his wife tried to show up at the hospital. Still not sure how they found us or knew where we were. But staff blocked them and covered for us. Like a bunch if you said we would start running into them randomly around town, mainly grocery shopping stores. Even if I drove out of my way, we would sometimes bump into one or both of them. Law enforcement still says they are not doing anything against the law and don't seem dangerous malicious. We did our best to ignore them or stay home or have a family member get the items. My therapist has sure earned her paycheck the last few months. My lawyer is trying their best, but the laws I feel are against us. Innocent until proven guilty. Or in this case, nothing is dangerous until after it is. Or hurry up and wait until something bad happens. Then we might do something. It is super frustrating. We moved. Now, I never want to do that again. Good family helps. But with a newborn and crazy people around, it was stressful. I know it doesn't sound possible and I'm still in disbelief, but my in-laws are amazing and got us in contact with a friend of theirs. Long story short, these friends wanted to downsize since all of their kids moved out, told in-laws and brought them over. We ended up coming up with a really good deal. Our new home is bigger on more land, but needs a lot of work. Still baby-friendly. It is old and outdated, but we have been making it ours. We are not rich by any stretch of the imagination. We have a good network around us. I'm also doing 99% of the work to the house myself. Seal moved in and helped us make it possible. Since moving, we had not seen my dad or his wife. That was until about 2 weeks ago. I was going to update and did write all of the above then. Since my lawyer contacted me saying my dad reached out and wanted to talk, I tried to say hard pass, but they advised me by saying, I think it would be in your best interest. We set up a date and time in public. 3 days later, at a coffee shop we met up. Even though we were early, they were waiting for us. It was just my wife and I, also a paralegal from my lawyer's office undercover. I could see the disappointment in their eyes that our child did not come with us. It started awkward AF. They started some BS small talk, but I just said, what do you want? Well, my dad's health is not well and is going downhill steadily. May have 2-ish years at most. They showed scans, doctor's notes, tests, and other items to prove it. I was quiet the entire time they talked, and all I could think about is, that sucks for him. It was like getting news that someone you knew of when you were a child died, or is sick, like a neighbor or an old babysitter. For me, no real emotion or feelings, because I feel like I didn't have a real connection with them. My wife knew I was irritated and tried to silently calm me down. When they were done, I said something to the effect of, I'm sorry this happened to you. I hope you get better. Then I got up to walk out. His wife opened her mouth and said something like, that's it? That all you have to say? You owe it to him to... I didn't let her finish and went off on them. I said everything that I had been saying in my head for years, a practice monologue I started when I was a teen. Highlights include, but are not limited to, how he owed me more than anything, how he ruined any type of relationship the moment he started thinking with his prick, when he tried to erase my real and only mom, neglect, abuse, overpunishment, the works. Then, I finished with my real mother, died when I was 14. Pretend I did as well, because that is when he, my dad, became dead to me. Now, looking back, I find it in a way funny that my 5'4" wife was holding back a 6'3", 200+ guy. But they kinda looked like fish opening and closing their mouth. My wife then escorted me away. When we got the car, I had my second panic attack. But since things have been quiet but still fresh, I'm struggling but working through it. When my wife notices me zoning, she just hands me our child, and things get better. We've got a grieving son, a speedy remarriage, and the in-laws from hell who can't take a hint even when it's delivered with a slammed door. Dad here seems to have a knack for life decisions as precise as a bull in a china shop. Moving on at warp speed after the loss of a loved one? Check. Forcing a new mom title on an unwilling son? Double check. And now, the grand finale. Surprise housewarming right down the street. It's like a real estate episode of how not to win friends and influence people. The son, on the other hand, is delivering Oscar-worthy performances and standing his ground. From cake-dumping dramatics to the legendary "you won't be a grandma" mic drop moment, he's holding his own against the relentless attempts to rewrite his family script. Despite the chaos, there's a silver lining here. Our protagonist, fine, let's call him that, is building a new life with a supportive partner and a soon-to-arrive little co-star. The house moves are in full swing, complete with DIY drama and in-law avoidance tactics, with a dash of suspense and a side of, "Can you believe this is my life?" Now let's move on to the section for comments. User Acrylic U3. Wow, I'm in awe of what you accomplished, OP. I hope that your father understands what he has done to you and keeps his distance. He likely won't, but still, what you did was amazing. You are going to make an amazing father to your child. Please focus on your baby and the positivity that your child brings to your life. User Peppermint Rain. I know this might be dark, but I hope after meeting with them and blowing up at their entitlement, you won't have to deal with them nothing you much more. Thank goodness you and your family were able to move and stay out of reach of your dad and his wife's chance encounters. It seems like you'll be able to focus on enjoying life with your beautiful family, free from drama from now on. Best wishes. User Silly Dizzy Dazzle. OP, proud of you. You finally were able to say how you felt, what you bottled up all these years, and stood up for your beloved mother's memory. As an adult, you chose your family as your wife, child, and in-laws. You were denying that choice as a child. Wishing you all many blessings and much happiness. Congratulations on the new baby. Let's move on to the next story. My 28F late husband's 29M family wants to reconnect with our kids against his explicit wishes in the past. My 28F husband John, 29M, died recently. It was shocking and really sudden. He was at work and suffered a brain aneurysm. We took him to the hospital, but it was too late. John and I have 2 twin boys aged 4. I am aware life is going to get significantly harder now, but I very much want to raise our boys the way John and I had planned. One part of said plan was John never, ever wanted our sons to have anything to do with his side of the family. John's dad cheated on his mom when he was 12 and left her for the mistress. The divorce was nothing short of mental torture for the poor woman who had been betrayed, blindsided, and then abandoned by her partner. She slipped into a depression, and instead of showing any compassion, his dad used her mental health to file for primary custody, which he later got. His mom was an orphan, and his dad's side of the family left her, so she was without any emotional, financial, or physical support. John fought all the way to be with his mom, but he was only a kid. He was devastated when a few months after divorce and custody, she ended her life. John's relationship with his father completely broke down. He ran away and after much fighting was sent to live with his aunt. But he left after turning 18 and since then has been very LC with his aunt and NC with the rest of his family. His dad has reached out over the years, especially after John and I married and welcomed our boys. John has refused every single one of them, barred them from our house, called the cops, threatened them with harassment charges and restraining orders. He made it very clear to them and me that our boys would never have anything to do with them. I've always respected his wishes. When John was in hospital, his dad and grandparents tried to visit, but even in his delirious state, John got angry upon seeing them and tried to get up and leave. This made me ban them from the hospital. I didn't tell them about John's passing either. I planned the funeral and paid for it. It was nothing fancy, but the service was beautiful and heartfelt. When his dad found out, he came to our house, shouting at me for not letting him see his son one last time. He was crying and screaming. I told him John made it clear that he didn't want him anywhere near, that it would have been disrespectful to ignore John's wishes. After more yelling and crying, John's aunt and uncle came to take his dad home. Before leaving, his aunt asked to meet my sons, but I refused again, telling her John didn't want them in his kids' lives. She called me heartless and cruel, that I had no right to deprive them of their grandkids and that my sons would hate me for it. My sister, who was inside watching everything later, told me I was an asshole for depriving my children of their grandfather's love. She also asked me to consider my kids' future. I'm a single mother now, and John and I were living an average middle-class life, whereas his father's side of the family are quite rich. His dad had previously offered to pay for John's college, his house, our wedding, or even set up a fund for our boys. But John had refused everything. He had made it clear in every way that he wanted nothing from his family. It was fine while John was alive. Between him and I, we could have supported our boys. But alone now, I'm nervous. How do I proceed our act going forward? My parents have been so supportive through it all. My mom has moved in to help babysit the boys while I go to work. Today, John's aunt called me again. She was crying and apologized for calling me cruel and heartless. She said she had raised John and was heartbroken to not be allowed to see him once. I said it's okay and explained I was just following John's wishes. She said his dad was devastated, but has accepted that John was still mad at him. He has agreed to take a step back and sees that he cannot be expected to see his grandsons immediately, and that it can take time, but that he wants a few pictures at the very least. I reminded her that I hadn't consented to letting them in even at a later date, and I wouldn't send any pictures. That got her mad and she snapped, "How dare you," at me, but calmed down soon and just said she'll call again later. She cut the call before I could say more. So that's where we are at now. About John's mom, her name was Anna. From what John told me, she was the sweetest woman ever and that she deeply loved his dad. One thing he always said was, he remembers how quickly his mother forgave his dad for cheating and still wanted to work on the marriage. She had begged and cried when he told her he was leaving, and that he wanted her gone by the time he came back. She had once even hit John after he told her that he hated his dad. John always cried remembering this moment, and he always told me, if he ever treated me like that, I should give him no second chance, that he wants me to be stronger than his mom. This one memory is what I keep replaying in my head. I have to be stronger, and you all have given me a lot of confidence. Thank you so much. Our leading lady, let's call her the solo navigator, is juggling grief, parenthood, and a persistent in-law circus. First off, condolences on the sudden loss of her co-pilot, John. Enter the in-laws, stage left, demanding an encore against John's clear wishes from the grave. It's a tale as old as time, or at least as old as rich grandparents trying to buy their way into the lives of unsuspecting grandkids. Money talks, but so does a deceased spouse's adamant, no thanks. The solo navigator is holding the fort against the invasion of dollar bills and family melodrama. Now, we have a supporting cast, featuring the aunt with a hint of buyer's remorse. She's throwing apologies like confetti, but you can't unring the drama bell. It's a classic case of sorry, not sorry in the world of family feuds. As for the sister chiming in, well, she's playing the role of the meddling sidekick, questioning the solo navigator's choices. Apparently, the solo navigator is the puppet master, depriving her kids of a silver spoon and rich grandparents. Someone fetch the popcorn. This family saga is just getting started. In the grand finale, the solo navigator's tall, rejecting even the idea of sending pictures. Bravo. The aunt's "how dare you" is met with a firm "how dare you question my boundaries." It's a showdown of wills, and our solo navigator is not backing down. Let's now go on to the comment section. User knittingfairy09113. Honor what your husband wanted. Your FIL was, to some degree or another, responsible for the death of John's mother. He is reaping what he sowed, nor do I consider him to be at all trustworthy considering. Look into grandparents' rights for your area. I'm very sorry for your loss and the additional stress you're receiving. User maybe Yesna replies. In my state, grandparents' rights only apply to if the child's parents aren't married, if the parents are involved in ongoing litigation concerning the child, or if the child is no longer living with either parent. Just did a search. Sorry, OP, but looks like they can petition for visitation in many states due to the death of one parent. Definitely get a lawyer to make sure you have all of the paperwork together to justify why the relationship isn't healthy for the boys, or relocate to a state this wouldn't be a problem in. User Haunting Blade. Honor his wishes, but seal legal counsel ASAP. In many places, the death of their child is an allowed criteria for suing for grandparents' rights, which is in effect visitation rights akin to those of a divorced parent. If you are lucky, you live somewhere that isn't the case, or your husband's refusal has enough of a paper trail that the court would use it to throw out the request. But otherwise, don't listen to the internet. Get professional advice and follow it to the letter. Let's get into the last story. My 40M, wife 37F, went on a girls' trip. I found a private message between her and her mother saying that she will divorce me if she comes and the house is dirty. How do I confront her about it? This is going to be pretty wordy as I'm still processing what's happening. Sorry if I give too much backstory or not enough. I've never asked for relationship advice before because I never thought we needed it until today. My 40M, wife 37F, and I have been happily, or so I thought, married for 9 years. Our anniversary is next week. She just left for a 4-day girls' trip in the city, and I am staying home to care for our 3-year-old son. I wasn't thrilled about it since it's an expensive trip and money is really tight right now, but whatever. She doesn't get to see these friends very often since they live far away. I suggested that maybe we could all go together and I could spend all day hanging out with our son while she spends time with her friends. We could get a cheaper hotel than the fancy one her friends picked, and then she wouldn't have to share a room with them at night. She snores and is self-conscious about it. She did not like this idea, so we agreed I would stay home and she would go by herself instead. Our car recently broke down and we can't afford to take it to a mechanic, so I decided to work on it over the weekend. I can't leave my kid alone, so I took him with me and plopped him in the car seat with the family tablet to watch some kid shows while I work. When I turned on the tablet, a bunch of notifications popped up from a conversation between my wife and her mother, and I could clearly see that my wife said she was going to divorce me if she came home and the house was dirty. It did not sound like she was joking. It sounded like a foregone conclusion, like she's discussing if she should stay in the state or move away after the divorce. Her mother also seemed to be taking it seriously. Now, I am not the most tidy person, but our house looks like you'd expect any house with a 3-year-old to look. Cluttered, but not completely disgusting. We don't really have enough storage in our kitchen, so our countertops tend to collect things that we use frequently. She says she wants our kitchen to look like the ones on TikTok, but we're always making PBJs, etc., so jars and commonly used utensils tend to live on the counter. We both tidy up when we have time. I do all the grocery shopping, all the cooking, and we split the rest of the housework evenly. Her only real solo chores are bath time with our son and putting the dishes into the dishwasher. She lets them pile up and does them about once per week and complains about how much work it is. I have asked her if she wants to switch chores, and she always gets angry and says no because she is a bad cook. Fair enough. Here's where it gets weird though. She just recently had a talk with me about how I don't respond quickly enough to her texts while I'm at work, and that it gives her massive anxiety because she starts to think that I secretly hate her and want to leave her. I assured her that's not the case, and that it's because I'm busy working. I have a job where lots of people are talking to me about time-sensitive tasks. She seemed a little relieved by my response. And now I find out that she's thinking about leaving me anyway, which makes no sense if she's scared I'm gonna leave her. I thought maybe this was some kind of defense mechanism, but the conversation with her mother happened after I told her that I still love her and that I'm happy being with her. She recently discovered TikTok and immediately developed what I think is an unhealthy relationship with the app. I've expressed some concern, but she's a grown woman, so I figured she can spend her free time however she wants. I sometimes tease her that she always has her face buried in her phone now because of TikTok. She just laughs it off. This is her main after-work activity though. She lays on the couch or the bed and scrolls through videos on TikTok. While she was packing for her trip, she told me about a TikTok video she saw where a woman left her husband with their child for 11 days, and when she came home, the house was a disaster. I have not seen this video, so I can't really comment on it, but 11 days with no support from your spouse seems like a pretty long time to me. She was disgusted with how this guy didn't clean up enough before his wife came home, and said that he must have done it to punish her. I can't help but notice that she saw this video right before the conversation with her mother. Also, a few weeks ago, she also accused me of malicious incompetence. She couldn't explain what it was, but she saw a TikTok video where somebody was talking about their maliciously incompetent husband, and I guess she felt like it applied to me too. I was pretty offended by this, as I bust my ass to keep our home afloat. I asked her for an example, and she could not give me one. A few days later, when I came home from shopping with our son, she told me that I was being maliciously incompetent for not buying oranges at the store. Oranges were not on the family shopping list we keep on the fridge. When I was at the store, I asked my son, the primary fruit eater in the house, what fruit he wanted, and he said bananas, so that is what I bought. But she insisted that if I were not maliciously incompetent, I would have gotten oranges too. I can't help but wonder if these are truly her feelings, or is she just venting or trying to feel solidarity with these "my husband sucks" TikTok videos? I want to talk to her about it right now, but I feel like I should wait until she gets back since I don't want to ruin her trip with an argument. How do I approach this conversation with her when she gets back? I'm feeling a million different emotions right now. I don't want to lose my wife and son. I could just clean the house super well and pretend like I never saw the message, but I think that would eat away at me, knowing that she was thinking about leaving me over something so stupid. And who is to say there won't be another secret ultimatum in the future? I can't play that game forever. Part of me just wants to print out the divorce papers and hand them to her when she gets home to see what her reaction is, because I honestly can't tell how serious she is about the whole thing. But at the same time, I don't want to make it worse if she's truly on the fence about it. She's made jokes in the past, at least I thought they were jokes, about leaving me for a sugar daddy and having one foot out the door, but these were said in a joking manner and we both laughed at it. Again, this recent conversation with her mom did not sound like a joke to me. This has shattered my world and I'm not thinking clearly anymore. I'm not sure how I can go back to the way things were. I don't know if this relationship even salvageable. I can't tell if she's gone crazy or if I am actually as useless as these TikTok husbands I keep hearing about and just don't know it. Nothing makes sense anymore. Ah, the classic TikTok-induced relationship drama. Who knew a few seconds of snappy videos could wreak such havoc in the real world? Now, let's call him the tidy time traveler, has stumbled upon a digital Pandora's box of marital mayhem. So, his wife's on a girls' trip, and little does he know, her TikTok journey has led her down a path of clandestine conversations with her mother, plotting the cleanliness conditions for a potential divorce. Talk about an unexpected plot twist. Now, our tidy time traveler has a dilemma. Should he play the part of the unsuspecting husband, deep clean the house and sweep the issue under the proverbial rug? Or should he confront the issue head-on, armed with printouts of divorce papers as if they were a superhero's secret weapon? The TikTok-induced madness doesn't stop there. Apparently, our wife is terrified of the tidy time traveler leaving her, yet contemplates leaving him for a sugar daddy. In the grand finale, our tidy time traveler chooses a path of wisdom. A clean house? Sure, why not? Divorce papers? Maybe not just yet. Instead, a calm, collected conversation about feelings, expectations, and the impact of viral videos on domestic bliss. Now, let's go to comment section. User Jinboka. OP, I've seen the video of the trashed house your wife is talking about. It isn't that he didn't clean up while she was gone. He purposefully trashed the house because she was gone for 11 days. She is also referring to weaponized incompetence. It doesn't sound like that's what you are. It seems, Luke, she is trying to figure out how to leave you, and these TikToks are giving her ideas. User Oldgal Miss PT. There seems to be more problems in your relationship than you were realizing. Housekeeping isn't the issue despite all these comments. Weaponized incompetence isn't the issue. Your wife is unhappy and looking for a reason to leave. You two apparently aren't communicating and working as a team, as this expensive trip would have never been on the table, and she wouldn't be discussing your relationship in such negative terms with her mother. She wouldn't be demanding immediate responses to your text messages either. You simply tell your wife the truth when she gets home. You turned on the tablet and you saw the messages. You need to tell her how those messages made you feel, how her contribution to the household makes you feel, how her expensive trip despite your finances made you feel, how discussing your marriage with her mother and not you made you feel, how her time on social media makes you feel, how her unfair accusations make you feel. Be ready to have suggested solutions like therapy, marriage counseling, revisiting her PPD medication or separation. I'm sorry you're going through this, but you aren't damned if you do, damned if you don't. You just have to make yourself have a shitty conversation with your wife. There is now no way around it, just through it. Good luck. User Careless Welder 4048. Take pictures of the evidence and you have to talk to your wife. I have seen the TikTok video, the one she referenced. And to be fair, she's right, but you don't sound like that. To be honest, she sounds lazy. Marriage counseling is needed, but if she doesn't want to be married anymore, there's not much you can do. As we wrap up this Reddit story, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more captivating Reddit stories. Your support means the world to me, I enjoy, and I can't wait to see you in the next video.